myself as a child, a very small child or a baby, less than 1 month old. I was quite helpless. I needed a lot of attention to survive. And the only way I could get that was by crying. Then I started smiling too, and I understood that that also caught attention from all those people around me, those people who will tend to me. And as I grew up, I had other ways of communicating, and I started adapting to the world of adults. All those big people around me. But because I was a small child, I still needed help and attention. I needed to be noticed. So I started adapting in different ways to that world of my parents or other important people around me. So I behaved politely to my neighbor, even though I was not very fond of them, because my parents insisted so. When I caught a bad cold, I wiped my nose in a handkerchief, not on my dress sleeve, just because my mother wanted me to do so. My father liked me to be quiet whenever he was around. So I learned to be quiet when he is around. My mother was very happy when I smiled at her. I smiled a lot at her. And she was not very happy when I sulked or I showed my anger. So I tried a lot to smile when I was around her. Now, as an adult, I start using these behaviors unconsciously, even in adult situations too. Like my boss, he never likes me talking or giving my opinions when he is explaining something or he is taking a decision. So just like I did to my father, when my father was around, I kept myself very quiet. When I'm behaving around my boss also, not airing my opinions, I'm keeping myself quiet even though I had my own opinions. Then in terms of TA, we say that I am in my adapted child. So I'm showing those behaviors which help me to adapt to the world of the adults around me, even when I grew up and I had other options. I was just carrying it forward. There were other instances too when I was not behaving very obediently, but I was rebelling against the rules given to me. So sometimes when my parents were not around, I used to do to my neighbor's daughter, just because I felt like doing so. So I started rebelling against authorities. Or when I was sure my parents were not around, I may just use my shirt sleeve to wipe my nose rather than using a handkerchief. Just to show my mother that I'm not very happy, I will sulk the whole day because I know that she will not be happy. So I could rebel also in a world just to get attention at times. So this is called a rebellious child, which is also part of the adapted child. So there were times when I behaved quite obediently just to please the adults around me or those big people around me. And there were times when I behaved rebelliously. And I could carry this behavior also to my adulthood. When I become a big person at my age, I could still carry these forward. So when my boss asked me to do a particular work with a deadline, I just go in front of him and tell him I did not get enough time to complete this. Just to show him. And inside me, I feel a satisfaction, the same satisfaction I felt when I was sulking when my mother wanted me to be happy. So I was showing that rebellious behavior in my adult state also, where I had other options. Now, there were times in my childhood where I could behave, or I behaved just as it pleased me, not to please others or not to get attention. Just because I felt doing so, I did things. Like I cried a lot when my pet dog died. Or when my sister pushed me, I got very angry that I pushed her back. So these behaviors, I was not doing these just because I wanted to get attention or to please others, but I was doing these because I felt doing so. This is called my natural child or my free child. Just for my happiness or just to show my emotions when I was behaving as a child. That is my natural child or free child. And I did carry those things also to my adulthood. When I became an adult, when I became a woman, I still had those things inside me. So when I see an ice cream, I just say, "Hi, ice cream," because it's just activating my free child. When someone is angry at me, tears well up in my eyes because I'm feeling sad. So those emotions coming out, just venting out, that is my free child. The free child is very curious, very creative, whereas the adapted child is the one who is adapted to the environment. So these are the two different forms in which we are expressing our child. Even when we grow up, we become 40 years old or 50 years old, we are expressing that child inside us. This is called the functional ego state. So in the last session, we discussed about the structural ego states. We talked about the parent, the child, and the adult. And now we are trying to see functionally how they are different. So in today's session, we are actually discussing about the child ego state and the different forms it is expressed in a functional level. How the child is expressed. So functionally, the child can be the adapted one, could be the obedient, very nice one, or could be the rebellious one. Both comes under the adapted child. Or the child can be just spontaneous, like the free or the natural child. As grown-ups, we use our adapted child in many different ways in our daily life. Like the words we say, please, thank you, all these are from our adapted child. So we adapt to the society around us, even without thinking about it. So we are behaving in our adaptive child. And the best part of this is we don't have to waste the energy, the mental energy of thinking how to get things done in this particular situation, because we already have the adapted child ready to pitch in at that time. So that saves a lot of mental energy. This is called our positive adapted child. The adapted child can be really positive for us, or we can behave in the positive adapted child, which can get things done in the society. Now, the adapted child can be negative too at times. Like as a grown-up, I could just sit and sulk because I used to get things done when I used to sit and sulk as a child. My parents used to do things for me. So as a grown up, when I'm using the same pattern and is trying to get things done, maybe in my work situation or in my home situation, I'm said to be in the negative adapted child. I remember that when I was a small child, I participated in a speech competition. I learned really well. I was maybe in a third grade or fourth grade. So I went and stood on the stage and I couldn't deliver the speech properly. I stuttered and stammered because I was scared. Now, as a grown up, when I stand in front of a crowd or I was asked to deliver a speech, still I'm stuttering and stammering, recalling of all those my friends jeering at me and all these things. I'm recalling all those things. Then I'm going to my negative adapted child. But in that particular situation, I have all the potential to deliver that speech. In the here and now, I have all the potential to deliver that speech. I'm not a small child anymore. But still, I'm doing so. So, I can say I went back to my negative adapted child. Even my free child also has positive and negative effects. When I'm engaging in activities without thinking of what others think about me, then I'm said to be in my free child. And as a grown up, I could still engage in my free child. My free child can just come out. So when in conditions where I feel really angry, but I cannot show that, but when I come back home, I just beat on the pillow and vent it out. It can be said that I am engaging in my free child. Or sometimes I feel really sad and I cry. I'm still in the free child. Or I feel very happy, I can enjoy a party because of my free child. So these are all positive free child because I'm venting out my emotions, I'm showing my emotions. I could even go to my negative free child, a free child who concerns only about herself but not about others. I might have seen like maybe teenage boys or young adults riding bikes without the silencer, dashing through. They are said to be in the negative free child. They're doing this just to be happy, but their happiness can be dangerous not only to them but to others also. So that is negative free child. So today we talked about the child, the functional child, and the different ways. So there is the adapted child, which could be that very obedient one or could be the rebellious one. And we talked about the free child, which is quite spontaneous, very creative. And we saw the positive side and the negative side of both as grown-ups. When we grow up, how we carry it forward. So that's all for today. In our next session, we will talk more about the parent.